How are you, men?
Well, just fine, Bob and Ray. It's a great pleasure to be here on your National Public Radio program.
Well, it's a pleasure for us to be here, too. What have you been doing here since we saw you last?
Well, we've been touring with our orchestra. Playing college proms and series of one-nighters.
We've been keeping busy.
Occupied.
By ourselves. Did you get out to the West Coast?
No, we didn't get that far.
Didn't get that far.
We got about as far as Suffern, New York. And we had trouble with the bus. Well, I don't want to go into all that. It's a big story.
Okay, well, suffice to say you've said hello, and it's good to see you again.
Well,
good luck.
Always a pleasure. Good luck. Good luck to you.
And we want to remind you, too, that our two fine sponsors are still with us. Einbinder, the greatest name in flypaper, and Monongahela.
And who?
Monongahela, the metal foundry that casts its ingots with the housewife in mind. And right now, we inaugurate a new public affairs feature called Bankruptcy. A program designed to provide a platform from which businessmen who are on the verge of bankruptcy because of bad breaks on management may make a plea to the public and thus perhaps avert financial disaster. Our guest today, Mr. Willard Huffer, trolley car broker. Welcome to Bankruptcy, Mr. Huffer.
Thank you. Which microphone should I plead into here?
Well, that one you're on is okay. Before you start your plea, though, would you fill us in on your problem and how it got to be a problem?
Well, certainly, Bob. Would you prefer I call you Mr. Elliott?
I prefer Mr. Elliott. Yeah.
All right, fine, Mr. Elliott. I have 150 completely refurbished old trolley cars with brand new fluorescent lighting inside, and I'd like to sell them at a reasonable price.
Oh, where'd you get hold of 150 old trolley cars, sir?
Well, it's quite a long story, and a sad one, too, but briefly, I got them for $500 a piece in city auctions a couple of years ago.
What prompted you to do that?
Well, some clown sitting next to me at the auction urged me to buy them. He said he knew some foreign guy from one of those undeveloped countries who'd pay 10 times what I paid for them to use in his country, see?
And what happened then?
Well, this clown disappeared after I'd bought them. And I spent the next year collaring delegations from different backward countries as they walked in and out of the United Nations.
You were trying to unload 150 old trolley cars on them. Were they at all interested?
Very little. It seemed that all of these undeveloped countries planned on skipping the trolley car phase in their development and go right into buses and planes, see? Although I got close to a sale in the city of Kathmandu in Nepal.
Oh, can you tell us how that happened to fall through?
Well, I got as far as painting Garnak Ventura Dingwan Kathmandu San on the side of the trolley.
What does that mean?
The City of Kathmandu Transportation Service. I looked it up in the public library. And then, Mr. Elliott, the roof fell in.
Nepalese money got tight, huh?
No. Kathmandu is situated in the Himalaya Mountains, the world's highest. And saying that Kathmandu is a bit hilly would be like saying the Empire State Building is cute.
Yeah. Or that the Grand Canyon is adorable.
That's right.
Well, how did all this affect the deal?
Well, at the last minute, the powers that be, namely the High Lama, he decided that they needed cable cars like your San Francisco has.
Oh, that was a tough break. Practically signed, sealed, and delivered, and then poof. Did you try any other approaches to unloading the trolleys?
Oh, I tried everything. I spoke to the Disneyland people about putting them in a trolley land.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to sell them as diners. They're using those big aluminum ones for that now, you know. I even tried to sell them as scrap, but being mostly wood, they're worthless.
And so, on the verge of bankruptcy now, you're holding down 3 jobs to pay for the cost of keeping them in a railroad yard, and you're desperate. And this is why you make your plea, Mr. Huffer. Just keep it short, if you will.
Thank you. Anyone interested in 150 refurbished trolley cars with the Garnak Ventura Dingwan Kathmandu San written on the sides, and get in touch with me through the Bob and Ray Public Service Department.
Thank you, Mr. Willard Huffer. You're a trolley car broker who really needs help. Good luck. And friends, tune in next time when another person whose business is on the rocks pleads for help on Bankruptcy.
Now, once again, it's time for Grand Motel, a speck of a place, a heck of a place on Route 14 near Hadleyville, where the mountains meet the sky and living as easy as pie. As our story begins today, we find uncompromising owner Leonard Humphrey hanging a new calendar on the wall of his office. Suddenly, the door opens, and a weary stranger steps across the threshold of Grand Motel.
Well, come right in, stranger. You're just in time to use the new office calendar I make available to all the guests here. Feel free to drop by the office anytime during your stay and look up as many dates as you want. Absolutely no charge.
Now, that sounds like a good deal. But I don't want to be rushing to becoming a guest here until I know more about the place. You see, I'm allergic to a lot of things, like dust on the carpet. So I have to be sure you'll give me enough clean bath towels to cover all the rugs. Otherwise, I sneeze and can't get a wink of sleep.
Well, I'm sorry, friend, but I couldn't possibly give you enough clean towels to cover the whole floor. I'm up half the night doing the laundry as it is.
Well, Daddy, wait. Now, please don't be so obstinate and bullheaded till I can get there and talk this over with you.
Well, I don't think it's bullheaded to tell a person I won't put 50 or 60 clean towels on the floor for him. But if you want to talk it over, I got no objections.
Gee, I'm sure I've seen that great-looking chick someplace before. Is she Elizabeth Taylor or Princess Grace or...
Neither one. She's my daughter.
Oh, Daddy, I'm so thankful I got here before this gentleman left in a huff. You mustn't be so uncompromising with him when he need his money to buy a new life preserver for the swimming pool. Board of Safety inspectors will never approve it as it is.
Well, I don't know why we need a life preserver for a swimming pool that's so full of cracks we can't put water in it. But you keep up on the safety rules better than I do, Naomi, so I'll make an exception in this gentleman's case and put clean towels all over the floor so he won't sneeze.
Oh, that's more like it. And be sure to hang towels all over that shrubbery out in the yard, too. Like I said, I'm allergic to stuff in the air, and shrubbery's really murder.
Well, that's too bad, but I couldn't possibly put towels over all our shrubbery. It would take all the linen we own for that.
Daddy, now you just mustn't be so obstinate. We need this man's business desperately. Without a new life preserver, they could make us tear up the swimming pool, even if it doesn't have water in it. You know it.
All right, Naomi. It'll cost more to launder the linens than we can make on the room, but I'll use all our good stuff to cover the shrubbery after I've finished covering the floor.
Well, I'm glad you're finally taking some sound advice from that good-looking chick. Just wish I could remember where I'd seen her before. Did you say she's Raquel Welch or Aunt Margaret? Or...
No, neither one. She's my daughter.
Gee, I doubt it. If that's who she was, I never would have seen her before. But we can discuss that later. Now, what kind of stuffing do you have in your pillows? Better not be chicken feathers, because they make me sneeze like crazy.
Well, then how come you're not sneezing now? There's a chicken farm right next door, and I haven't even run over there yet and thrown any of my clean towels over the chickens for you.
Now, Daddy, please, now you mustn't make smart alecky remarks to the man. We need his business something awful, and if it'll make him decide to stay here, we can certainly go out and buy a foam rubber pillow for him.
Well, this is all eating into the profit when I only get $6 a night for our rooms. But we aim to please, so whatever you say, stranger.
Well, that's the way I like to hear you talk. Incidentally, you never answered my question.
She's nobody you've seen before. She's my daughter.
No, not that question. I give up trying to get a straight answer to that one. All I want to know is what kind of stuffing you have in your pillows.
Good grief, that's what Naomi and I have been standing here talking about. We were saying we've got feather pillows now.
Oh, well, I can't stand feather pillows. They'll make me sneeze.
I know, you said that, so Naomi and I said we'd get you a foam rubber pillow, and you indicated that was fine.
Oh, I don't know how I could have indicated that. You've got such a rotten disposition that I wouldn't want to stay here anyway, no matter what kind of pillows you have. Goodbye.
Well, I'm sorry, Naomi. I don't know what gets into me sometimes.
As uncompromising owner Leonard Humphrey's uncompromising nature finally driven him out of the motel business? Or would a new life preserver for the swimming pool have helped much anyway? Perhaps we'll learn more next time when another weary traveler arrives at Grand Motel.
We're happy to announce today that we've just added a new member to our Bob and Ray investigative reporting staff. He's Artie Skirmahorn, and he's ready right now with his first expose, I think. So come in, Artie.
This is Artie Skirmahorn outside the main office door of the Frozen Frost Ice Cube Tray Company in Rockford, Illinois. In my hand, I hold a potentially lethal ice cube tray, just like the ones that may be in your own refrigerator. The lower portion of this particular tray is covered with sponge rubber, a material that tends to become wet and stick to the bottom of any metal freezer compartment. And that's exactly what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1981, when a young child strained several of his internal organs while trying to remove ice cubes from the family refrigerator. So far, officials of this company have refused to answer any questions.
Oh, hello there. You must be that investigative reporter.
Yes, and I'm on the air.
I'm the president of Frozen Frost, G.G. Woodsy. I tried to phone you back about arranging an interview, but your secretary said you don't take calls from chowderheads.
Well, that must be the machine that answers when I'm out.
I understand. Come on in.
Thanks.
Hey, what's that in your hand? Looks like a Model 614. I haven't seen one of those old-timers in years.
You mean this type of tray is no longer in production?
No, they were made for just a short time back in the 40s.
Out of production for more than 30 years, ladies and gentlemen, yet they still may be lurking in your home. As recently as 1981, a little tyke in Tulsa, Oklahoma, missed days of nursery school because of his tragic encounter with this product. And he may have been only the one child among many whose parents dared to come forward.
Would you like some coffee or something?
Certainly not. Mr. Woodsy, if this model was discontinued after a short time, you must have known of the deadly danger.
Well, I don't think the industry ever felt it was in danger. Consumers were just angry because these space dividers don't come up high enough. Makes the water all freeze together into one big globby ice cube.
I meant the hazardous sponge rubber on the bottom.
Oh, that was supposed to keep the kitchen drain board from chipping when you set the tray down. I guess it wasn't too popular.
Well, it was popular enough for an innocent child in Tulsa to hurt himself. In his case, may have been only one of many.
What is this you keep mentioning about a child being hurt by an ice cube tray?
You know about the case, Woodsy. Didn't you feel personally responsible for recalling every one of those trays?
No, I couldn't have done that.
Couldn't have done it? Well, what kind of irresponsibility is that?
Well, I had no authority. After all, our firm wasn't the one that made those trays.
Really? Are you sure?
Yes, I'm quite sure. They were turned out by... what was their name?
It'd help if you could remember. I'd like to question some of their people.
No, you couldn't do that. They've been out of business for years.
Oh, well, as you say, these things were only made for a short time anyway.
That's right, and they were never popular.
I'm sure of it. So, that about wraps up this investigative report from here. Now, this is Eddie Skimmerhorn, returning you to Bob and Ray.
And now here's a message from the makers of Einbinder's flypaper that will come as welcome news to many of you. Friends, nobody likes to hang strips of flypaper that form curlicues and gradually roll themselves back up to the ceiling again. As loyal Americans, you're entitled to a flypaper that hangs straight down and remains that way for weeks on end. And that's exactly what you get when you ask your local pest control supplier for Einbinder, the brand you've gradually grown to trust over the course of 3 generations. Now another chapter in the endless story of intrigue as it unfolds among the prominent families of Garish Summit. There in stately splendor, far removed from the squalid village below, they fight their petty battles over power and money. As our action begins, it's Christmas Eve at the Murchfield estate, and the servants are holding their annual holiday party in the root cellar near the main house. Suddenly, the voice of Lloyd the gardener can be heard speaking above the festive gaiety.
I sure hate these Christmas parties Miss Agatha makes us hold every year in the root cellar. You know, it's below zero in here.
Oh, I shouldn't be too critical of Miss Agatha Lloyd. She's a good sort. Just pull up one of those bags of turnips and sit down. We're going to sing carols soon.
Keep your shirt on, Wilfred. I'm trying to find an ice pick to chip off a piece of the eggnog. Sure would help if Miss Agatha put some electric lights down here.
Now, Lloyd, Miss Agatha's a good sort. Just try to get into the spirit of the holiday. And...
Oh, my word, Lloyd. You fell right in my lap.
Oh, do stop flailing around in the dark and sit down in one of those turnip bags, Lloyd.
I still need an ice pick, but I give up. It really ticks me off that we have to celebrate Christmas down here. I can just picture the family up in the main house, all comfy.
Confound it, I've rung 3 times for the butler to come freshen my brandy. Where is that slothful wretch?
Well, now, Rodney, just Sit down in your wing chair and relax. I told the servants they could have 45 minutes for their Christmas party. So Wilfred's probably down in the cellar with the others.
Seems to me you're terribly lax with the hired help during the holidays, Mother. I was especially upset when I got your memo today ordering me to close the lead mine an hour early just because it's Christmas Eve.
Well, I know it causes a drop in those production charts that you keep, but your brother Caldwell said it was cheaper to close early than to risk another riot like the miners staged last Christmas.
I might have known that any scheme promoting idleness would have been Caldwell's idea. Found it. The servants still don't answer the bell. They're probably all drunk down there by now. I can just picture them.
Now, don't bother thawing your eggnog over that lighted match, Wilfred. I just found it's been made with sour milk. Can you beat that? Miss Agatha made our Christmas eggnog with sour milk.
There, Lloyd. I'm sure it was unintentional. Miss Agatha's a good sort. Let's sing carols.
Hey, I've just about had it up to here with you, Wilfred.
Up to where? I can't see in the dark.
I'm pointing at my throat.
Oh.
I just don't understand why you always stick up for Miss Agatha when she makes us hold our party in this damp cellar. Even the turnips down here are rotten. Can't you smell them?
Yes, but I'm sure Miss Agatha didn't know that...
Are those rotten turnips? I thought it was Lloyd's aftershave I smelled.
This is no time for sarcasm, Lucille. I was just saying that Miss Agatha is a good sort and fond of us all.
Knock it off, Wilfred. Miss Agatha's an old bat. You're the only one who likes her, and I often wonder why.
Hopefully you'll never learn why. I can just picture the problems it would cause if anybody ever found out.
Hey, great Scott, I just found out why that slimy little butler is always fawning over Mother.
Well, don't shout, Caldwell. The Airedale was sleeping by the fire and you startled it. I don't know why you came here on Christmas Eve anyway, demanding to see all your mother's legal papers.
It was because I couldn't contain my curiosity about her early life, Mr. Pardue. And look what I found. A document dated 1943 that makes a British war orphan her legally adopted son. That son, now grown to manhood, is our family butler, Wilfred Llewellyn Nimby.
Will Wilfred freeze in the root cellar before he can assert his rightful claim to a room in the main house? Can Mr. Pardue be bribed to destroy the only known copy of his adoption papers? And what about the Airedale that only pretends to be asleep? Perhaps we'll learn more next time when we hear Caldwell say...
You say you're Spanky Murchfield from Fresno?
That's next time on Garish Summit. A new play opened here on Broadway last night entitled The Tender T-Bone, I believe it was. It stars a veteran of stage, screen, radio, television, the orchestra world, practically any phase of show business, Barry Campbell. Unfortunately, the play closed last night, too, but we'd like to have you meet a great guy and a great performer, Barry Campbell.
Thank you.
Barry,
It's a pleasure to be here.
sorry to hear about the closing last night.
Yeah.
This was the first Broadway show, I believe, in which you attempted to dance. Is that right?
That's right.
I say attempted because one of the critics pointed out in his review this morning that you stumbled across the stage much in the manner of a bull in a china shop. I think that's the way he expressed it.
Yeah, he has a great way with words.
Yeah.
No, actually, what happened was I tripped on this small scatter rug, see, just inside the foyer of the girl's apartment.
Well, this is the love interest, the girl you play opposite?
Yeah, that's right. I'm supposed to, fall in love with this kid. Incidentally, this girl, we've been in rehearsals so much now. We've started rehearsals in February and intensive rehearsals in April.
Oh, it's a long time.
And we're around together so much that by the time the curtain went up last night, I couldn't stand the sight of her. I couldn't go through any of that love stuff, the kissing or the hugging. Right?
That must have thrown the other actors off the pace quite a bit, didn't it?
Well, not as much as when I forgot my lines.
I was going to get to that. That same reviewer pointed out a little further on in his review that there was a time, I think, in the second act when for nearly 20, 25 minutes, nobody said a word.
That's right.
Is that right?
Yeah.
How do you cover up for a thing like that?
Well, I had a prop newspaper there they picked up and read.
You were luckier than the rest of the cast, huh?
Well, you know, I thought so until 3 people got up out of the audience and came right up on the stage. And one singled me out. I was scared there for a minute.
I should think so. Did the rest of the audience realize that wasn't part of the show?
No, they were walking up and down the aisles. They were visiting with one another. They were having a wonderful evening in the theater.
I guess so. Well, I hope your next effort is more successful, Barry Campbell, and we'll certainly...
Well, I leave tomorrow on an exchange tour through Europe.
Oh.
Yeah, we fly from New York, we go over to Belgium, and then we go up to Switzerland, down here to Italy, and then back up here to Germany, and then we go on over to Russia, and then we get down to the beautiful tour through the Greek Isles.
It is.
And then we wind up back here in White Plains.
Certainly is it's an energetic tour you've got arranged for you, and you come by and tell us about it next time you're in town.
I have to be back the end of June. We have a recording date with my new all-girl orchestra.
Oh,
We're going to record a new album.
Going back in the band business.
And we feature the theremin. Now, this is an electrically charged stainless steel pole.
I know it is.
That you play by holding your hand close to it or removing it.
Right.
Closer your hand is, you get a different notes of the
seen that.
scale, you see. We're going to play lush, dentist office type music on this album, and we think it'll be a big hit.
Thank you very much, Barry Campbell, star of stage, screen, radio, and television, for dropping by here today. Important news right now of the big anniversary sale in progress at your local Monongahela Metal Foundry showroom. Every extra shiny steel ingot in stock is marked down a full 20% during this great event. It's Monongahela's way of saying thanks for making this the biggest year we've enjoyed since way back in 1976. And now, a big year at the foundry can mean big savings for you if you act quickly. Have your flat car towed down to a conveniently located Monongahela showroom and stock up today.
And now it's time for the adventures of Charlie Chu, famed Oriental sleuth, as he and his #1 son attempt to solve the case of the Ghostly Gunman.
I know it sounds unbelievable, Chu, but that's the word I get from the crime lab. The body of wealthy Oliver Wendell Osgood was found out here on the terrace, but there isn't a trace of evidence that the killer came through the Osgood apartment to shoot him, and there's no other way to get to the terrace.
May I interrupt to ask Inspector one vital question?
Gee willikers, Pop. The police admit that this case has them baffled, and yet only 5 minutes after you're on the scene, you've already thought of a vital question to ask.
#1 son has mouth like rusty hinge of gate. Continue to swing back and forth, making noise, despite all effort to keep it shut.
Gee, Pop, I don't know why you always put me down. I'm just enthusiastic about getting to help you solve a big murder case.
#1 son can best help illustrious father by waiting downstairs in building lobby. Play doorman. We split tips 50-50.
Chu, what was that question you wanted to ask?
Inspector revealed that killer did not enter or leave apartment where body of victim was found on terrace. Therefore, it is not logical to assume that shot was fired from apartment next door or possibly across street.
Holy cow, Pop. I sure don't see why that would be logical. If you found a wild duck shot out of season, you wouldn't assume that it was a duck across the street who'd shot him.
#1 son, like river that never freeze over in winter. Mouth stay open year round.
Chu, I want you to make that kid shut up before he drives us both bananas. But I'm also kind of anxious to solve this murder case, and I'm afraid your theory of the shot being fired from across the street just couldn't be right. Our ballistics expert says the bullet entered from close range.
In such case, Charlie Chu saddened that Inspector does not carry thinking one step further. If bullet could not have entered victim at close range while he was standing here, and killer was standing across street, then is it not logical that victim was also across street with killer at time of death.
No, that's not logical at all. The body was found right here, and nobody could have carried it in without leaving evidence.
Ah, so. The logic of Inspector seemed to win best 2 falls out of 3 over logic of Charlie Chu.
No, wait, Pop. Suppose the victim was killed somewhere else, like you said. But then his body was left on this terrace by some method that didn't require the killer to walk through the apartment. Say, for instance, it was dropped here from the roof.
Charlie Chu, pleased to observe that the blabbermouth's son finally speak wisdom inherited from father's side of family.
Well, I guess that may sound like wisdom until you hear that my men have already checked out the roof of this building, and they're positive that no one has been up there for months.
Ah, so. Very interesting.
Hey, Pop, then that can only mean you had the facts correct, but backwards. If the victim was shot at close range and nobody else was here, then that means he was the one preparing to shoot somebody across the street when his gun went off accidentally and he shot himself instead. This victim wasn't really a victim. He was a killer who never got a chance to kill his intended victim, if you see what I mean.
Charlie Chu not only see what number one son mean, but praise. Clever deduction as well. Events merely reflect wisdom of honorable ancestor who say, at any given time, those who are not here must all be in some other place.
Gee whiz, Pop. Our ancestors were really loaded with wisdom. It's too bad there aren't any of them around today. We could sure use one as a police inspector.
Well, gee, I don't know. Anything else we have to cover here today?
No?
No, that's it then.
That puts the lid on this Bob and Ray Public Radio program, as we say.
Except to thank those who helped lend a note of festivity to the proceedings.
Yes, there was Larry Josephson, friend of the oppressed. He developed and produced our show for the Radio Foundation.
Associate producer was Marjorie Van Halderen, one of the few here who remember that this is the year of the dog in the Chinese calendar. Joe Lopes was our engineer.
Stan Free played an American-made electric organ.
And funding, in part, from the National Endowment for the Arts.
And the New York State Council on the Arts.
Now, this is Ray Goulding reminding you to write if you get work.
Bob Elliott reminding you to hang by your thumbs.
For a free picture of Bob and Ray, send a stamped, self-addressed envelope to Bob and Ray Picture, Box 5000, GPO, New York 10116. That's Bob and Ray Picture, Box 5000, GPO, New York 10116.
Thank you.
Thank you, friends. Very kind.
This program was independently produced by the Radio Foundation.
Oh.